Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing? My name is Amanda Ellis, and a very warm welcome to my channel. Today is the 8th of July 2025, but this is a timeless video and in many ways is summing up a lot of my work that I've been doing here on this channel since 2012. But I realise that many of you are new, or if you're not new, I think it's good to have a refresher. And this subject, according to YouTube, is the one that everybody wants to hear about. So I'm going to go for it because I do have quite a lot to say on this subject, a wealth of experience. I've been on my awakening path for many decades now. Been following a spiritual path really all of my life. So what we're going to be doing in this video is condensing down some of the energies around awakening and ascension, explaining what that even is, some guidance with regards to how to go about navigating it, some important reminders of what it is and also what it is not. And we're going to be guided by one of my main guides, which is Archangel Metatron. And I think it is Archangel Metatron that we will start with. And many of you know that I created an oracle deck devoted to the guidance of Archangel Metatron, who is said to be the being that helps to oversee ascension on planet Earth. Now, of course, he's helped by many other beings, and one of the newer guides that I'm working with is Serapis Bey, and we'll talk more about his energy in another video. But Serapis Bey, for example, comes in, well, he's always around, but he particularly becomes prominent in people's lives and energy fields when we're going through mass awakening, as we have done in previous lifetimes, which you may or may not remember, for example, Atlantis, Lemuria, ancient Egypt, but not just exclusive to those well-known ancient civilizations where we talk about a golden age. Also, awakening moments are very prevalent in many other past lives that we will have had, because awakening, more than anything, is about remembering, it's about remembrance, and it's also about evolving. So you will have evolved, you will have remembered in other lifetimes, but this one is particularly topical, I think probably because of the gift that new technologies give us to be able to talk about something which we have experienced before, but maybe we haven't been able to share in such a wide public arena, gifted by something such as the internet. But anyway, back to Metatron, back to the deck. I have pulled two cards off camera because, to be honest, the Archangel Metatron Self-Mastery deck has got 55 cards in it, and pretty much any of them are going to be linked into awakening and ascension. So I was wondering what would come up. I will also shuffle live on camera, but off camera, I will just say that the two that came through make complete sense, because we have the lilac ray. I'll show you the cards in a moment. The lilac ray, which is about higher realms and magic, and it goes with the indigo card, which is about mystery and mastery of life. And if you look at those two cards, you'll be able to clearly see that we have the questioning child, which is all of us. We all have that childlike curiosity. We came as children of the universe, children of God, to experience, to remember, to learn. And here we are as that child. And that is appropriate for whatever age you are. It's not age specific, but we're looking up into the night sky, wondering why, what, when, the endless questions that the universe and we have as beings upon it. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here, etc.? And we look up to the higher realms, which aren't just in some far away place that is inaccessible. The higher realms, as we learn, the more that we go on our awakening path, are very much within us. And the guides that we often see as being out there are also within us. But anyway, so those are the first two cards that come through just to start the conversation. I will just pull a third and see what else Metatron wants to bring forth. And then I'm going to go to my notes, which I've made, that he's given me with regards to the salient points. Okay, so one more card, please, as we open up this video. Thank you for watching on what is awakening, what is ascension. I'm smiling because those of you that follow me on social media, and where I use my deck quite frequently, will know that this card comes up all the time. I mean, all the time. But it's because it's so important. It is the card of priorities, and it says building blocks for life. But here we have got the chakra colours, the traditional chakra colours anyway, representing in particular the 7 in-body chakras: base, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, crown, or third eye and crown. Now, of course, there are other chakras out of body, many more than just those traditional 7. But that is the first place where we can make the change, feel the change, where the lessons and the gifts are going to be within ourselves, within our own life, for us to master. And it's also a reminder that we're guided by the angels at all stages of our awakening process, but that the body needs to awaken just as much as the mind needs to awaken. The soul needs to awaken, although the soul isn't unawakened, but it's having a new experience in the body that you have and I have right now. It's never had this particular moment. It's never had this particular body at the particular age that it is now. And so the soul is learning something, maybe through the energy of a disease, maybe through getting older, maybe through the energy of being young and your first experiences going out into the big wide world, etc. So we've also got the energy of the pyramid, the chakras. It's a reference also to awakening being linked into the light body. What I have always taught is that the chakras, all of them essentially, over time become filled with rainbow light, which is why I always teach that it's important for the chakras and your aura to experiment and get used to different colours within them, because ultimately we have this light body. The chakras are the system which helps the light and the prana circulate through our body, and so chakra maintenance is absolutely essential on our awakening path. And what Metatron is saying is that there are many wake-up calls that can bring us to a point where we start to awaken, we want to evolve, we get onto an ascension path, but it always comes in via one of these chakras. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily it has to be a physical problem. It is the fact that all of the chakras within the body correspond to different emotional states, spiritual states, and physical states. So, as an example, the energy of loss or grief, which could be about anything or anyone, can be, for example, a trigger that makes us start to question why and what and when, and trying to understand our place in the wider universe. But loss affects many different chakras. Of course, it affects the throat chakra, but primarily also the heart chakra. So what Metatron is teaching in this moment is that the chakras are intrinsically linked into how we navigate our ascension path. Okay, I just want to tune into anything else he's saying on this, because it's a huge subject. I could do a whole video, and I probably will do, on the chakras, but it linked into this particular topic, Metatron, Ascension, Awakening, Chakras. Okay, so what he's saying to me now is that not all of the chakras awaken at the same time. Now, there are things such as Kundalini awakenings, which can stimulate and activate the whole system all at once. Absolutely, that can happen. But it's not the given. And what is often a more common path is the fact that one or two chakras will start to, I'm actually hearing the word, be irritated. And irritation is an interesting word, because I'm being shown the pearl inside the clamshell. And of course, the pearl only becomes as beautiful as it is through a process which involves actually irritation and abrasion. So we have to, we become rather uncomfortable with regards to something that's going on in our life, something that's going on within our body. It's showing up in a particular place within the body, linked into a particular chakra point, and it's that one that we tend to focus on. It's also interesting that the further we go along our ascension path, that there may well be one particular chakra that you have in your body that is your problem chakra, as I call it. Most of us have one, which is that part of the body that is the quickest to go out of alignment at any one time. And this is because, not that you're doing anything wrong and you're not tending to it maybe as well as you can, but it's the fact that there is more there. There is more for you to maybe step into. There is more for you to experience. There is more teaching. There is more learning with regards to that particular place within the body. So with me, it's always my stomach, which is my weak point. So solar plexus energy will often go out, but that is about stepping into power. I like to think that I am pretty much, in my power and my sovereignty. But what Metatron is saying is that, and this is a lesson for all of us, whatever our path is, that there is greater depth to anything that we step into. There is always the ability to have even deeper levels of sovereignty and greater power. Not power from a place of ego, power from a place of wisdom, etc. Okay, so that's the first message that wants to come through. Let's now go to some of my notes, and these have come through from Metatron this morning. So, yeah, I mean, I'm making this video because out there it feels as though, I don't know if it's just my feed, every other video seems to be about what is awakening, and often we have these shock headlines with regards to one particular thing that is maybe going to happen, that is going to change everything, that is going to awaken our planet, that is going to change us. And that may or may not happen. Metatron's saying it's actually more of a sideline activity. I don't wish to trigger anybody, but that's what I'm hearing. Because what I've written down here is that awakening is more of an inside job. Yes, there are external things that can happen and do happen anyway in our world every year, which are there to help stimulate and awaken us and make us question and make us go deeper and make us turn to our tools, which we should be using ideally frequently anyway. And a tool doesn't have to be a physical thing. A tool can be something like a mantra or a prayer or just a frequency or a vibration that you are trying to hold. Okay, so the first thing that I'm wanting to say is that awakening is an inside job. Also that awakening isn't linear. It's not about a particular destination. It's also not about a particular moment in time. It is a constant rolling series of energies and events and frequencies and ever evolving motion is what I'm hearing. It is about ever increasing consciousness. And wherever you are starting from, which is going to be different for every single person in this lifetime, is where you are starting from. And where you get to before the time you die is where you get to. How you get there, how you do it, how you respond, how you react, how you behave is all part of awakening. So awakening is an energy. Awakening is a constant stream of moments and consciousness that is there to help you, not hinder you. And one of the beautiful pieces of symbolism that Metatron has given me with regards to awakening not being linear is linked into the rose. And I think I probably have shared this on another video, but I'm going to share it again because it's good. So sometimes the mistake is that, as I say, awakening is about getting to a particular place or getting to a particular state, reaching a particular frequency. Whereas if we think about the rosebud as being us, this also goes with the energy of the infinity sign. The fact that everything blooms, everything returns back to another state to bloom again. So it's like this beautiful figure of 8 type energy is what awakening really is. So we have the rosebud, which is a seed. The seed grows into the plant. The plant produces the rose. The rose becomes a bud, which is tight. The rosebud then starts to loosen and it comes into full bloom. The rose then loses its petals one by one and they drop to the floor. The rose is able to seed itself again. What I mean by that is the petals themselves, for example, go into the earth, which helps to nourish the earth, to fertilize the earth, to bring about another flower for another year, another bud for another year, another moment of blossoming. Because awakening is also about blossoming. It is the analogy of the flower, whereby you have the tight bud, which becomes the looser petal, which becomes the full-blown petal, etc. So I think if we just remember that analogy of all stages of the flower or the rose being part of the awakening process, that also is applicable to us. And that it isn't ever about, as I say, just that one definitive moment where we've got it, we're there. Because even if we reach that place, the petals would then start to fall, because they're meant to, because that's the cycle of life. It then flows back into the earth, and then there is another moment for us to rise again and experience something else again. So I think if we can just see the awakening journey more about this process of flow, natural flow and rhythm, rather than just this straight linear graph. Because I think many of us are seeing it as this straight linear graph upward, and it truly isn't. And the more that you see it as a straight upward path of learning, of acquiring wisdom, of getting to a different state of consciousness, of being more clairvoyant or more clairaudient, the more that sometimes we can just slip back down again, because there is a lesson that we might have missed. So steady growth is what we require. Evolution itself does come sometimes in bursts, where you might get a burst and a growth, but then there will also be this natural slowing down as well. So see the rhythm. In no particular order, what else do I want to say about the awakening process? So the first thing is that we are on a planet planet Earth, which has chosen to ascend to a higher dimensional frequency, from what is called third dimensional frequency to higher. And I just want to say higher because there always seems to be this fixation on 5D, but 5D, fifth dimensional consciousness, is certainly not the end. There are many other stages of consciousness above that. But I think we're being given the goal of 5D consciousness because where we are now as a humanity is many people are still struggling and wallowing in 3D consciousness. So the point I'm trying to make here is the planet is moving up, whether we are going to follow it or not. And the people that are not evolving with Gaia, with trying to evolve with her, are not wrong. There is no right or wrong. It's just the fact that they're going to be struggling more upon a higher vibrational planet when they are holding a denser, lower frequency. So there is going to be this mismatch of energies between the one stuck in 3D, which is very much about ego and mind over heart and unity, on a planet that is moving forward no matter what. So Mother Earth has already made this decision that she is moving in frequency to a higher one, because she's been stuck in this universe with dense energies upon her, with the hardest lessons for so long, and she's had so much tolerance and so much patience with us as a species to be able to get it, to learn, to become essentially better human beings. But many people are still struggling to get there. Most of the teachings that are out there with regards to how to do this are thousands and thousands of years old. The guidance that comes, the teaching that comes from masters and archangels and ascended beings such as Metatron, what they are doing is reminding you of theologies, steps, concepts, energies that are not new, and actually, when it all boils down to it, are very simple. As Jesus said, do as you would be done to. Love thy neighbour. You know, these are pretty straightforward things, but they're things that humans have found very hard to model on a consistent basis. And the fact that as a species we haven't been doing the inner work because we've been distracted by so many other things, and the internet has actually only made it worse, means that the consciousness that wishes to grow and rise to meet the higher frequency of Gaia is struggling to do so. So yeah, sorry, I go into a different place when I'm channeling like that. I'm just trying to get back to where I was. The mismatch between 3D and 5D. Yes, okay. All right. I've written down here, part of collective awakening and also individual awakening is discovering new truths, although I don't really want to even use the word truths. I want to just say new perspectives, new discoveries, Metatron is saying, new discoveries that we have been blind to with regards to consciousness itself, reality itself, structure of society itself, nature of life itself, good and evil, etc., etc. And it feels as though there are parts of the Ascension community, I want to call them, who are going down, for example, the rabbit holes where there are these new discoveries and truths and things to consider and things to know. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what Metatron is saying is that awakening and ascension isn't just about discovering these things. It's about your response to having found them. Can we just have a moment just to think about what I just said there? It's about your response to what you find. In fact, the awakened response is always to come back to the heart, to demonstrate to others, to the collective, to the situation, what will be healing balm rather than what will be salt rubbed into a wound. So it's about our response rather than what we find down these rabbit holes, yeah? Another point I would like to raise here, and this is in no particular order, these are just downloads that came in this morning. Metatron is saying, this isn't the only lifetime that you have awakened. I think I referred to that at the start of this, but I'd like to go on a bit more. He's saying, and again, trigger warning, not meaning to trigger anybody, but there's a lot of information, there's a lot of videos out there at the moment which are sort of insinuating that this is the greatest moment in history. That this is the greatest moment. This is the greatest moment of awakening on our planet. Metatron is saying your soul, which carries past life memories, may very well disagree. This moment is important because it's the present moment, but it's the ego that gives it this time that we're living through the greatest score ever, you know? All ages that you have lived in, all lifetimes that you've had, have had opportunities to awaken. Is it greater now than before? Now, I think you're probably expecting at this point for me to say yes, of course, because that is what's being said out there. But Metatron's saying it's actually 50-50. Because on one hand, yes, it is, because we can see more evidence of other people that are waking up, just via the way our societies are now structured, via the new technologies that we have. But equally, these new technologies and how they can be manipulated, or how we can be manipulated at a more collective level, can also try to stunt ascension's growth in the individual. So he's showing me this little sort of sapling, which is us, that is trying to just, and this is the start of the awakening process, that is starting to try to grow, yeah? And on one hand, the environment around it is very fortuitous, that this feels a very good season or a very good lifetime to really awaken very, very fully, and for the collective too. But on the other hand, at any one moment, there can be the clouds that come in to try to deroot that sapling and prevent it from fully growing, or a load of bugs that descend upon it and make it diseased. This is all analogy, yeah? So go back to what Metatron says. This isn't the only lifetime you have awakened. It's our human ego that thinks that everything has to happen in this lifetime. That we have to see disclosure, for example. That we have to see the golden age. Interestingly, I was having a chat with one of my daughters the other day, and we were talking about the golden age, and I talk about it frequently on my channel, New Earth energies, why we're going through all of this darkness at the moment. And yes, that's all part of the ascension journey. And she said to me, do you think I will see it in my lifetime? And I replied to her honestly, and I said, well, I hope that I see it in my lifetime, but I'm not sure. I think that you will see it in your lifetime, but I can't guarantee that. nobody can guarantee that, because it is dependent upon the collective consciousness's response. All that we do know is that eventually we get there. But again, it's the ego that thinks it has to happen in the 70 years, or however long it is, that we have on this planet. Whereas these 70 years are an absolutely minuscule amount in the wider context of the history and evolution, and yes, awakening and ascension of this planet. So it's as though we try and put human constructs on it, that by this date all karma has to be resolved, but that by this date the golden dawn is in these countries but not in these countries. Awakening is about all aspects of beingness. Yes, we're human, but we've also got this spiritual side to us, which is timeless. And so awakening and ascension in many ways is operating on a spectrum of time that human beings can't control. Okay, so very important to remember that. And as Metatron teaches us, just to keep our eyes fixed on the horizon, as Indigenous elders teach, that we are planting seeds in our awakening journey for 7 generations hence. I mean, that really is getting ego out of the way. But then again, you know, it could also be that in 7 generations hence, it's you that's back anyway. And then time isn't linear. Anyway, that's the point I wanted to make there. Next important point is that your job isn't to awaken others, but yourself. I can't stress this enough. It goes back to awakening being an inside job. So your job is to work on yourself, work on your own response, work on your own consciousness, work on acquiring more wisdom, more understanding, more compassion, less judgment, etc. Tenets of, for example, Christ consciousness, heart-centered consciousness, or take it into any other belief system that you hold. Ultimately, there are similarities with all of them. But it's about working on that rather than looking at what everybody else is doing and judging that as somehow that they are asleep, you know, and that they shouldn't be, that they should be more evolved, or they should know more, or they should be at a higher state of frequency. Maybe they're meant to be at that lower state of frequency to help you. And this is one of the bitterest pills to swallow. It's one that I have had to swallow in my own life with regards to some of the people that I have in it, whereby I absolutely know that some people are staying at a lower consciousness. I don't even like the word lower really, but just a different consciousness, a heavier level of consciousness, let's put it that way, rather than lower, to help serve me, because then I have a barometer against which maybe to measure progress. Don't even really like the word progress, but just trying to make you understand where I'm going with this. But equally, if that heavier consciousness that you have in another that you might have a relationship with triggers you or angers you, or you judge it or you berate it, or, you know, these are all lessons and teachings that this person over here is holding for you. So that is actually often a thankless task. But of course, at soul level, we understand that souls have already agreed pre-incarnation with regards to the roles that they're going to play and how they're going to help us. And not everybody takes on the role of being, you know, the really popular one or the one that everybody loves and gets on with. There are advanced souls in your soul group that came to reflect something to you that might be deeply unpleasant, deeply triggering or hurtful, but in that there is a gift, because that is the wound through which you can grow. And wounds are, as Leonard Cohen said, is the place where the light gets in. And what is awakening? What is ascension? It's about growing light. It's about remembering that we are light. It's about remembering that light is in every other person, every situation, and bringing that to it. Now, I haven't verified this, but I will just sneak this into this particular video. It was something I came across on social media. And it says this. I'll show you the picture. It says a man was placed in a room that was 100% blackout dark. No light in any way. I don't know if it's one of those places that you can go to. There are these places where, for example, there is no sound, and I mean no sound. And it's actually a challenge to even stay in there for a few minutes, because literally no sound can almost drive you mad, because then you start to actually hear the beat of your heart. You can hear the blood flowing through your veins, your pulse. It's a very profound experience, and it's not for the faint-hearted. So maybe this is something similar, where this person was placed in a room with 100% blackout darkness. Not just the level of darkness of being in your bedroom and you've got blackout blinds. This is a whole other level. And an image was taken over a 2-hour period. And it shows, I'll show you in a moment, a figure, just a white figure. So the white in the image is light emitted by biophotons. Our DNA emits light. We are light beings. The human eye just doesn't see this wavelength. I will give credit to who I found this from. I don't know who he is. Jordan Crowder. I think it was on X. This is the picture. So this was in a darkened room, where there is no light source, basically. And that was photographed, which essentially what it's showing is our light body. So I found that really fascinating. I did want to just weave that into this video, that we are light. I've talked about awakening being remembering. Another thing I wanted to mention here is that awakening is about curiosity. Awakening and ascension is about keeping an open mind. Keeping an open mind seems to be the one thing that is really preventing our ascension at the moment. Because Gaia has an open mind, Mother Earth has an open mind. I mean, hey, she said yes to us coming. Let's be perfectly blunt about it. She doesn't know. She says yes to all of the souls that are incarnating upon her, not knowing how those souls are going to turn out when they get here, what they're going to do to her, how they're going to behave. But she says yes, she's got an open mind. Also because I assume, sees the goodness in humanity as well. But this is the point I'm trying to make. Awakening is about curiosity and keeping an open mind. It's not about the need to be right, and it's not about tunnel vision. I'm afraid that this is our sticking point at the moment, as a society and maybe individually as well. I think all of us, if we're absolutely honest, have moments, because we all have ego, where we know we have this energy of we need to be right. You see it in politics. Is a great place to see it. You just see it everywhere. You've only got to turn on social media and there is a whole barrage of people that want to have the last word, because they are right and you are wrong. But this is, it's an anathema. It's something that is just a trap door, is what Metatron is saying, in terms of we fall through this trap door to a lower state, a more unawakened state every time we do that. I know this is difficult, but if we could try to just respond to differences of opinion from a place of questioning or curiosity, we would be helping ourselves, not just the wider collective. Maybe there's a little phrase we could come up with, because it's not about converting everybody to what we think or how we believe or what how we think things should be. It literally is a case of, it's interesting that you think that. Thank you for sharing that type of thing. Anyway, awakening is about curiosity and keeping an open mind. What else have I got written down here? And then I'm going to go back to Metatron, and I'm going to go to the crystal skull as well. I've written down here as well that awakening, like birth and death, is done alone. I guess that also flows into the thing that awakening is an inside job. Yeah, you see, this is an interesting one. Let me just go to Metatron on this. Awakening, like birth and death, is done alone. You see, I'm really not judging social media out there. I'm on social media delivering this message to you, and I'm very grateful for the platform that is YouTube, that allows us to be able to talk in this way and share this moment of connection and teaching, and hopefully inspiration. But I think there is something at the moment whereby the online world, let's just put it that way, is always wanting to share our awakening, our ascension, that I have got this, it's oversharing is what Metatron is saying. It's a thin line, it's a balance, because there's nothing wrong with sharing what you've learned, what you've acquired. That's good, that's what we're meant to be doing. But there's something here about, okay, he's helping me out with this one. What he's showing me now is he's saying the wisest person in the room is often the one that is saying nothing. Can you really feel that? Because I can really feel that. The wisest person in the room, the most evolved person in the room, the most awakened, spiritually awakened person in the room is the one that is saying nothing. And that really reminds me of the vision that I saw a few years ago, and I've shared this a few times, but I've got new subscribers, so I'll just tell you quickly what this was. It was a vision of Jesus, and it was at a time in America, although it still could be very relevant for now, where there's a lot of riots that were happening in USA. And I was responding to that, or trying to bring some support through with regards to what was going on. And I just had this energy of Jesus coming in, and I had this vision of him just sitting in the middle of the riot, or the crowd, the angry crowd, the mob, the hatred, the division, the name calling, the intolerance, the violence, all of that. He just sat there dressed in white, and he said nothing, and he did nothing. And it was just this presence of complete stillness, but it was the strength of the energy that was there. And from that place of stillness, from that place of seemingly doing nothing, everything changed. Sorry, I'm just seeing if someone's going to open the door. Excuse me. Good old Bella. How perfect, though, that interruption. Because really what I was talking about was this vision I had of Jesus standing, doing nothing, silent, but emitting this extraordinary peace and state of awakened consciousness. Opening the door to that, yeah? Just as I've had to open the door. Opening the door to that. And when you open the door to that state and show it and be it, number one, you don't have to say much, but number two, the strength of that, and people started to notice. They didn't know it was Jesus that I was seeing in this vision. It was just the image of a man dressed in white, and it's as though one by one the crowd starts to notice that somebody else is behaving differently. Hold on, they're not fighting, they're not shouting, they're not being vile and obnoxious and all the rest of it. They're doing something else. They're emitting something else. What are they emitting? They are emitting the energy of light and love. And those are qualities of an awakened heart, an ascended heart. Okay, right. I think I'm nearly there with my notes, and then we'll pull a few cards. Okay, anything else to say? Oh, yeah. I know many of you know this, but again, I'm just going to say it's common, of course, for friendship circles to change. It doesn't mean that you've got to say goodbye to people you don't want to say goodbye to. My experience of it has been that it's been a natural process of shedding, where people that just maybe aren't necessarily at my frequency anymore. It's not even that we've even had to have a conversation. It's just like people drift away. The other thing about it that I personally have experienced, and this doesn't have to be your experience, but I do feel it might be a symptom of a higher state of consciousness, is that you tend to need less, including people around you. Now, I still have people around me that I love, and I will go so far as to say I need in my life. I get great benefit from them being in my life, but I have a very small circle of friends, and I've got an even smaller circle of people that I really trust, although my friends really are the ones I trust. Very small circle. Don't have the need for great big friendship groups or social groups. Very content, really, with my own state of being, I suppose. So there is this energy of maybe becoming a little bit more insular. As I say, this doesn't have to be the case, and it doesn't mean that you can't go out and live a good life and do things and be in society, because I certainly do that. But just not the need for loads and loads of people, really. And I'm being shown the energy here by Metatron of maybe being back at school, and I don't know what age this is that I'm referencing, really, but I'm just being shown a child who is trying to find their feet, but doesn't know who they are yet. So what they do is they surround themselves with a group, and it's why gangs can be quite popular as well with young people. They surround themselves with a gang because they want the identity of the gang, or the group of people, rather than being okay and just standing as themselves, So there's definitely something here with regards to ascension also being the longer that you go on the path, it becomes a lonelier path. That's not the right word, though, because it's more a path. It doesn't mean you are lonely. It's just a path where you are more alone. There's a difference between loneliness and alone. You can be alone but not be lonely, because the further you go on, it's like this natural shedding process of people, possessions, things. It's a simplification of everything, a simpler life. Because everything ultimately starts to boil down to just a few basic core principles, one of which, of course, is the energy of love and compassion, and less about being distracted, by all of the other stuff that's out there. So, and the more that you walk along the path, or the higher up the mountain you climb, the less people there are with you. But that's okay, because actually you have this greater presence of whatever you want to call it, God, your guides, your higher self, all of that and more, Mother Earth. So you never are alone, as well as all the ancestors that are around us the whole time as well. So there's that. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to say. So let's now just tune into anything else that wants to come through. And I've got this beautiful crystal skull that I've shown you before. It's a Lemurian quartz. So it takes us back to other times where we have been on this path of awakening. And the first thing I'm being shown in my mind's eye is colours and light. And thank you, because I was going to mention colours and light and I'd forgotten. What I mean by colours and light are which colours can help us on our awakening path. So ultimately it's all the colours of the rainbow, but if I had to try and nail it down to a few, I mean, it's going to be different dependent upon where you are on your path. But put it this way, at the start of the path, and remember the path is spiral, so remember the rosebud. So it isn't, the start line is constantly moving, because just when you feel as though you finished the race or you're on the final lap, it's a bit like going on a walk and thinking that the cafe is just round the corner, and then you get round the corner and you realise there's about another 10 corners before you might get to your destination. So the start line is constantly moving, okay, based upon the different levels that you're at. There are plenty of different start points. There's always going to be new start points. It's like the energy of the Fool card in the tarot. Once you've completed one cycle of learning or shedding with regards to healing something, there will then be another start line. It's the energy of the Fool again. So at that point, I think 3 colours that I particularly wanted to bring out is, number one is the energy of the white light, basically white. So, and I am going to reference some of my sprays here at this point because I know many of you find them helpful. You don't have to have the sprays. You can just be evoking the colour rays without them. But obviously I sell them for a reason. They're there to help. In fact, really what got me into all of this teaching on YouTube was Metatron, Archangel Metatron, saying to me in 2007, I think it was way before I actually created these, I want you to make a colour system, because one of the ways that Metatron speaks is via the language of colour, because we are light beings. So when we're talking colour, you are listening to me at a rational mental level, but your body's actually receiving something different. At a higher frequency, which is why when I spray the sprays, I have lots of reports of people saying, I don't know how, but I can smell it. I can smell what you're spraying, and I'm sitting on the other side of the world from you. How is that possible? It's because colour is an energy. The light photons within your body is responding to the colours. So number one is white. So this is pure white, and it just says light download. Okay. Now, a few things to say about this one, or the whole process of awakening linked into white light. Number one, you need light to shine a spotlight on anything, don't you? Otherwise you don't know it's there. So the awakening journey, or the next stage of your awakening journey, will always have white light basically shone onto something. It may very well be something that you absolutely stubbornly don't want to look at, okay? I don't want to look at, I was watching this morning on Breakfast Time News, there was a lady, famous lady in a pop group who is an alcoholic, and she's turned her life around. Michelle Heaton, for those of you that follow UK pop. I think she's in, can't remember the band now. But anyway, the point is, she was a chronic alcoholic and she's turned her life around, and she's now a trainer, I think. She looks fantastic. But that will have been a hard journey. So she needed the light to be shone upon the problem, the addiction. And then it's your choice whether you just keep looking at that thing, whatever it is, whether it's an addiction, a problem, or it could be a gift or blessing, of course, as well. You do something about it or not. But white light is always the thing that will highlight the next stage, or what it is that requires growth, where your blind spots are as well, maybe, with regards to something or an aspect of self. White is also a colour that is very cleansing. So again, ascension, spiritual hygiene is very important. I kid you not, I think I can hear somebody cleaning their car outside as I'm talking about this. So apologies if you can hear that, but anyway, this is the way my videos go. So white light, cleansing, highlighting, throwing a spotlight onto something, darkest corners, all of that. White is a colour you absolutely need to be incorporating into your life. That can also be via clothing, decor, crystals, any of the white crystals or clear light crystals. I was going to talk about crystals, but clear quartz is a beautiful one to use as well. The other, as I say, I'm going to try and nail it down to 3 colours. So I would put orange as the next one. Now you might think, orange? That's a bit of a bizarre one. Well, actually, is it? Because orange is the colour of enlightenment. You think about Buddhist robes. What colour are they? They're orange. And orange is a colour. This was the first colour that was ever given to me by Archangel Metatron back in 2007, when he said, I wanted you to make a colour system. And he said to me, I've talked about this before, the future's bright, the future's orange, which actually was an advertising strapline at the time, but I understood what he meant. And orange is the colour of attunement and connection to Metatron, okay? So let's spray a bit of that. So I'm going to put orange as a colour for Ascension and Awakening, because Metatron is this energy that helps with the whole ascension process. So connecting into orange connects into him, which connects you into his guidance and support for your ascension journey and the planets. The third colour would be green, I think. And for example, emerald is as good as anything. Emerald, renewal and recovery. But any of the green rays. Why am I saying green? Because green is many things, but green is about the heart. So it's always about going back to the heart, but green is also about expansion and growth, okay? Think of nature, expansion and growth. And your awakening journey and this planet's awakening journey 100% ultimately is about growth and expansion. And so the colour green feels very fitting for that. Also, if you go for a darker green, such as emerald, in fact, I'm wearing it today, aren't I, thinking about it? It's very grounding. It can be very grounding, because it's of nature. It's a colour symbolic with nature. This particular spray actually has got vetiver in it, which is a very grounding very grounding essential oil, because the other thing with awakening and ascension is that the principle of as above, so below. So you can't go higher unless you go lower, which means a few things. Number one, you can't really go higher in frequency unless you look at your shadows, unless you look at the problems, unless you look at the wounds. Otherwise it can become very superfluous, very airy-fairy, very ungrounded. But as above, so below is also about, as I say, just actual grounding. Grounding in the chakras beneath your feet, your earth star, your base chakra, grounding and being in nature. And the more that you do that, and the more that you're grounded, and the more that you work on your foundations and your network and your relationships and the structure in your life, that becomes the launch pad, basically. So it's like you are the rocket that can then take off and can access higher realms and dimensions. Okay. That is a jet wash that is going on outside my door. I think it's hilarious. Okay. Let's see. Anything else to say before I wrap up this video? I don't want it to be too long. And I will come back to this subject if it's one that you find interesting and helpful, and if there are particular parts of it that you'd like me to expand on more as well. Okay, so I'm trying not to be distracted by the noise outside the window now, this cleansing, whooshing, watery noise, but it is what it is. It's there for a reason. Okay, what it's reminding me of, is white noise. Like when you don't tune a radio in properly and you've got like that white noise. So there's something here about making sure that you are properly aligned and tuned in to the highest possible light and source that you can. Now, out there online, there is a plethora of people, teachers, guides, channelers. Some are working for the light, and I'm sorry to say some are not. And no, I'm not going to give you names because that's just my perception anyway. But equally, remember, awakening and ascension is an inside job. And even people who are working maybe not for the light, or who have distorted alignments, not channeling the highest light possible, and you know that if they're always filled with fear, for example, and peddling fear. But there's a lesson in that. There's a lesson in that with regards to awakening, because how do you know what's good unless you've encountered the opposite? But really, the litmus test is with regards to any teaching, not just online, but also books, literature. I've even had it with oracle cards before. There was a particular oracle card deck that I bought a few years ago. It went straight in the bin. And no, I'm not telling you the name of that either, because I actually don't feel as though that's walking my talk if I was to do that, because I'm dissing somebody else's work, and that work might be there for a reason to get people to question and think, hold on a minute, this feels really dark and yucky and horrible, and why is it making me feel like that? Is it a wound within me that's being triggered? Or is it actually that there is some rather nasty energy linked to this particular person or this particular deck? Because the more that we learn about Ascension and Awakening, we understand the power of portals, and that everything is a portal. This video is a portal. All my videos are portals. Everybody else's videos are portals too. The question is, where do they take you, and how do they leave you feeling? And that doesn't mean that you can't tackle difficult, heavy subjects, because that's part of being a light worker and part of the Ascension path, to go into those places. But there should always be an aspect of hope or resolution, or at the very least a request for prayer, and light shone into that subject. If it's just a bit of a gory, gore fest and reveling in the darkness for views or book sales, you've really got to question that. Anyway, how did I get onto all of that? I really don't know. Portals we were talking about, weren't we? Yeah, okay. Let's just see, anything else that wants to come through in this video? I think we're going to have to do a part 2 by the look of it. Yeah, I'm just being reminded here by the crystal skull, but also by Metatron. Got both of them really. Just the energy of the crown chakra, being very aware of external influences that can distort and affect your perception and lead you down a dead-end path. Now, on the Ascension journey, there's no such thing really as a wrong move, because maybe there's something for you to learn that you went down a dead end. Oh, I've done that again, have I? I've fallen for that again, have I? Okay, pick yourself up, get back on your horse, and get back into alignment and on a path of greater truth, discernment and love. Okay, so in summary, I think I will just pull one more card actually from the Metatron deck. So, summing up the awakening journey, the ascension path for this world. At all times, Metatron's saying, ask yourself how your soul is responding to any situation, any world event, and let that be your guide, because the human nervous system in particular can absolutely be stimulated for right or wrong, and go into a freeze response, a panic response, a fear response. But actually, if you dip into the energy of your soul and your higher self, you will find a very different frequency that isn't as perturbed by what is occurring. Even the really big things, even if something excuse me, were to happen, or has happened, your higher self guides you through those times. Whether it is displacement, whether it is weather events. I know, because many of you have told me, it's like you were given the strength, you were given the grace to get through those days. It's like, where did that come from? I mean, we're not going to quibble in terms of where it came from. I mean, if you want to believe it came from God, that's fine. But it actually came from within yourself. The card that's come up is the card of alignment and connection, Metatron. Connection and attunement. Reach for that at all times. Reach for that at all times. Split the deck, we've got the card of letting go, time for release. That Ascension and Awakening is also a process of letting go. It's a process of letting go of old identities. It's a process of letting go of old thought forms. It's a process of letting go of old relationships, including the one you had with yourself and the wider world. It's a process of letting go. It's a process of release. You can't acquire the additional qualities or frequencies unless you are required to let go. Let go also surrender. And we've got the card here of evolution, birthing the new. Ultimately, that is what we're doing here. Ascension is about birthing the new. In every moment, in every breath, we birth the new. Are our thoughts ones that are going to take us to a higher frequency or a lower frequency? Is our behaviour going to take us to a higher place or a lower place? A stagnant place or a place of growth? What do we wish to create? What do we wish to evolve into as a species? There's also something with this card about the eternity of life. The baby in the womb is you and me that were that baby in the womb. Might have had a baby in your womb, but equally you are going to be a baby in the womb again. The process of ever evolving. Unless you are literally at the end of your incarnation cycle and you don't wish to come back. But most souls, once they get to the other side, do want to come back. And why? Not because they're forced to, but because they want another round on the merry-go-round. Because it's fun, actually, from a soul level, it's fun, believe it or not. The soul wants to grow. There was a comment that was left on my Facebook page yesterday, which I might end with here. That slip of the tongue where I said sun, I don't think was a slip of the tongue. Somebody made a comment, what was it? It was actually from a TV programme in the UK called Call the Midwife. Funnily enough, Call the Midwife. What do midwives give birth to? Babies. Yeah, Kim, thank you, Kim. It said, she says, I made a note of some words spoken in an episode of Call the Midwife because they really made me think and reflect. They were, God isn't in the event, he's in the response to the event and the love that is shown and the care that is given. Changing the way of looking at something can bring a new clarity. Yeah, I think I've sort of alluded to that in this video, that awakening is actually about our response. It isn't so much about the events that help create New Earth, some traumatic, some smooth, a myriad of things that can happen that help us to evolve and get there and feel and respond are important. But ultimately, when it all boils down to it, it's about you. It's about your response. It's about your frequency. And remember the analogy of the rose, that it is a constant journey. It's like this torus field energy. It's like the infinity. It's the torus field. It's the breath. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you for listening. I will link below the details of my cards, which I'm very proud of. If you're new and you don't know who I am, I've made 2 oracle decks. One is the Archangel Metatron self-mastery deck and the other one is a Christ consciousness self-mastery deck. And I think both of them are absolutely spot on actually for these times of ascension. And thank you so much everybody who has supported the creation of these decks and getting them out into the world. I'd like to see them get out into the world in an even bigger way, because I really think they're important for these times, because they're both about reminding you and me of what we can do today on our ascension path. What are our blocks? What are the gifts, etc. So there's that, and I will also link below my range of colour healing sprays, which are more than just colour healing sprays. They are energetic tools which speak to your light body, which fill your aura with positive intention, affirmation, frequencies, crystalline structure, sacred geometric energies, and more. And yeah, I went for white, green and orange as colours that are good for helping us at the start of our spiritual path. But I mean, there are so many others. And I would also just say, if you're looking at the sprays, just go for the one that's calling you, because that will be the one that you need at any one time, because your subconscious actually chooses. We've also got one other spray that I will mention, actually, because I think is important. There's one which is called Upgrade and Expansion. And it's this one. It's the Rainbow Ray, Archangel Metatron Rainbow Ray. It says Upgrade and Expansion. And we created this spray. The idea behind it was during times when our bodies are struggling with the events that we are meant to be responding to, whether that be natural events such as solar flares, or maybe it is something that's actually happened in your life. It could be something traumatic, or it could be something just normal. It could be I don't know, the fact that you're now an empty nester and your children have left home, or it could be that you've got a new baby, or anything whereby there is change, which means that your frequency is going to be affected by what is happening, whether it's external or internal. The Rainbow Ray is there to just help bring down that rainbow light into whichever chakra particularly needs it. Remember, we started off with this card, which is the card of the chakras, the priorities. But let's just all end with some of this beautiful Rainbow Ray. And I love the fact that we've brought that in, because Metatron is reminding me about the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But there's always this eternal search for the rainbow's end. The blessings that come with the rainbow, the promise that comes with the rainbow. And also the rainbow is made up, is it not, of water and light. So into every life some rain will fall. Into every life some sunshine will come also. So that is very synonymous with the Ascension path too. Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It gets it out beyond my typical audience that watch me, or share it. I would very much appreciate that. Thanks very much. Bye-bye for now. Have a good week. Bye-bye for now. Bye.